I want to quickly talk about how to add a table to your web page. A table is just a fancy name for a grid. And when I think of a grid, I think of rows and columns, just like Excel. Excel or any kind of spreadsheet program has columns across the top left to right and rows across the side left or top down. So in order to create a table inside of our HTML page, what you use is a table tag. And like any good HTML tag, it's got an open tag and an end tag, and everything you put inside is going to be inside that table. Table tags must have inside of them a row, defining a row first. So this is a row left to top down, but it goes across the page fully left to right. And we'll see what that looks like here in a second. And inside of that row, we can have a number of cells. And a cell represents a column, and a column is represented by the TD tag. So I'm going to create a couple columns inside of this row. Here's 3 columns inside of the first row. We just have one row right now. That's defined by the TR tag. We have one row. Inside of that one row, we're going to have one column, and we're going to have another column, and we'll have another column. And our row, we're going to add another row. And this is going to be a second row underneath the first one that's going to have exactly the same content. Except what I'm going to do is I'm going to say column 1, row 2. Column 2, row 2. Column 3, row 2. And just for definition, we'll come up here and we'll say column row 1 up here too. That way we can clearly see what is in row 1 and row 2 when we go to run this web page. Or, row 1 and row 2 when we go to run this web page. Here's the second row. Here's the here's the first row, row 1. And it's got 3 columns. Row 2 has 3 columns. So what I expect to see is 2 rows, and each of those rows will have 3 columns left to right. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to save this, and we will refresh it. What you'll notice right away is there doesn't look to be any structure around it. I don't actually see a table or any lines or anything around it. But if I look at the view source, I can clearly see my table is there, the code I wrote for the HTML to make that table. But I can kind of make out that this is row 1, here's row 1, here's row 1, and this is all of these 3 columns are in row 1. All of these 3 columns are in row 2. To make this seem a little more visual, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some style to the TD tag. And the TD tag, again, this is the TD tag is a cell. It's the column. It's the thing that goes left to right. And so I'm going to give it some border so I think it's easier to see. In order to do that, I'm going to make a style. And I'm going to say for anything that is of the type TD tag, I'm going to give it a border with a solid 1 pixel green border around it. Now, putting a style inside of the HTML is usually not a best practice. You usually want to put your CSS, your style sheet stuff, inside of its own file, not necessarily right here in your HTML. But since this isn't a video over styling, it's just really a video over tables, I'm going to break a little bit of the rules and add a style directly into my HTML. So I'm going to go and refresh it. And I think what you'll see here is a little bit more visual representation of what a cell is. Everything inside of a green box or inside of a green border is a cell. So I have 6 cells. Row 1 has 3 columns or 3 cells. Row 2 has 3 columns. or 3 cells. Maybe around the table itself, I'm going to add a style. I'll do a border, solid, 1 pixel, orange. And maybe we'll make it 3 pixels to give it a little bit more visibility here. What you can see is that the entire table is encapsulated with this orange border. Inside of that table is 3 columns in 2 rows. So I have a table, and I could easily put that style in my style tag. So I'm going to say anything of type table is going to have a border of solid 1 pixel orange. If you're wondering why I put it in the table tag and not in the style sheet. So now I still have a table. I have 2 rows. And I don't have any style defined, at least right in this HTML. I defined my styles up here for right now. Again, this is bad practice to put it in my HTML file. But I'm just saying a table should have a border, should have a 3 pixel border that's solid, and it's going to be colored orange. And again, this isn't a video over styling, so that's not really the representation. But it's a video over the table tag. So I have a table with 2 rows, 3 columns, and if I save this and refresh it, you can clearly see I have still a 1 table wrapped in orange with 2 rows, 3 columns or 3 cells. And you can see, looking at the HTML, you can see what it took to make that. A table tag, 2 rows, 1, 2, and 3 columns inside of each row. I can't have these columns outside of a TR tag. I must have columns or cells inside of a TR tag. And these TR tags must be inside of a table tag. So knowing this hierarchy of how these tags work is very important. Table, TR, TD. And a table is a great way to represent tabular data, meaning data that you would normally show in a grid format. A lot of people talk about using tables is a bad practice to lay out a web page, to put things in and design your web page with, and that's probably true. But this is just an example of showing tabular data. So if I wanted to add a 3rd row, I could do that. And I could have that row 3, row 3, row 3, column 1, 2, and 3. And I'll save and refresh, and we can see I have a 3rd row. If I wanted to add more columns, I would add a column 4, row 1, a column 4, row 2, a 4th column in row 3. And the text inside of a TD is what shows up. So I could easily write my name in that one. Now I'll do a refresh. And you can see that I'm going to get another column. And you can see that the Steve cell has the word Steve in it. It's in the 3rd row. And it's in the 4th cell. So learning the placements about the table, TR, TD tags in just raw HTML is a way to learn how to show a table inside of a web page. Now maybe there's times you're just going to style this differently. You'll have maybe a couple of these cells will have styling around them, or maybe the table won't have a border around it. And that all comes with styling, with style sheets, as far as lines and borders. But the structure of the table is very important to understand, that you can't have cells outside of rows. You can't have rows outside of a table. You can't have cells inside of a table. You have to have cells inside the TR first. And then you always have to appropriately end those tags as well. Hopefully that helps understand how to make a raw HTML table and how to structure one.